Good day, everyone. My name is Aulia Nurul Izzah, and my student number is 156. In this video, I will be presenting my first draft of my article with the title Aggressive and Impulsive Behavior as a Result of Miclu's Trauma in Autosomal Facts, the 2014. Today, I will be presenting two contents of my article, which is the introduction and literature review. When expressing, thinking, or behaving a certain way, our psyche has the utmost power over our body and practically controls it. Because of that reasons, our thoughts and action can be considered as a product of our psyche. However, one's manner of thinking may differ from another because one's level of subconsciousness with other individuals will never be the same, which is what distinguishes human beings. In general, the study will look at someone's mind when confronted with unpleasant events and how they react to them. Freud proposed the concept of subconsciousness and unconsciousness, commonly known as the id, ego, and superego, with each concept holding responsibility for a person's thought or action. The process of developing a child's personality begins at a very young age when the concept of id, ego, and superego are formed in their psyche. Traumatic experience in childhood times have led to the current scenario in which people have developed something to protect themselves and continue living with the agony that they only can understand. Unfortunate events in childhood may have an impact on the future since they have influenced how someone acts as an adult. Any traumatic occurrence in the past may contribute to someone becoming triggered when confronted with anything that could harm them. It creates a shield for someone to prevent any harm or something that may activate their feet, which is when one or more types of defense mechanisms are utilized. According to Baumeister, Dell, and Christine in 1998, it causes difficulty to someone when an internal or external event infects how they think. So it allows mind and body to create mechanisms which act as a shield against threatening life events. The various types of defense mechanisms are intended to ease the stress created by the fear of someone by carrying out certain actions to restore peace. For example, selective memory, denial, regression, repression, projection, rationalization, etc. The purpose of these acts is to help people distance themselves from potential risks or negative feelings. Freudian psychoanalysis is used as the main theory of this study because the story involves acts that are motivated by trauma and repressed feelings. McGlue, a sailor, is accused for murdering his best friend, Johnson, but he has no recollection of the incident. Because his childhood memories and trauma are the root of all his wrongdoings, he develops a number of defense mechanisms to protect himself. The novel describes Miklu's messed up childhood in which he was practically abandoned by his own mother and entered the world of alcohol at a young age. His choice shaped his reckless behavior and caused him to become the worst version of himself. So the study will be focusing on several forms that dominate the story, such as selective memory, denial, rationalizations, repression, and regression. Therefore, the researcher came up with the statement of the problems as follows. What factors contribute to Miklu's trauma? How does trauma influence Miklu's defense mechanism in responding to Johnson's death? It must include some past events that resulted in the person's trauma. Strange things that happen in someone's childhood influence their development and behavior in the future. So the importance of early childhood treatment should be noted. Early childhood trauma sets the stage for future mental and physical health problems. Trauma is classified into three categories: physical, emotional, and sexual, according to Tooth, Wong, and Devlin in 2020. People with trauma would find a way to protect themselves from a threatening situation. This behavior is called a defense mechanism. It is used to handle situations of inner turmoil for an individual and are unconscious reactions, according to Putnam in 2014. It might also be interpreted as a defensive reaction to protect ourselves. As seen in the novel, Miklu's condition as a guy who suffered trauma since he was a child causes him to build his own sorts of defense mechanisms. Miklu's defense mechanisms are also influenced by the constructs of personality, the id, ego, and superego while making decisions. socialization pressures could bring about minor changes in how these structures were expressed, but the basic tendencies of an individual's personality were set in childhood, according to Caspi and Roberts in 2001. Now we move on to the review of related studies. There are three related studies that support this research. The first one is a journal by Ritz Naini, Zulfaisha, and Hasnini Hasra titled Defense Mechanism of the Main Character in Laurie Hall's Anderson's Speak novel that was published in 2020. It describes how unfortunate and shocking events that happen to someone would result in both internal and external oppression. The study points out several defense mechanisms that were developed by the main character to defend herself from blowing up, which are projection, regression, sublimation, rationalization, identification, turning against the self, and isolation. Finally, defense mechanisms enabled her to speak out against those who had wronged her. Number two, a study from an undergraduate thesis written by Husni Mubarak in 2019 with the title, The Main Character's Defense Mechanism in Cormac McCarthy's novel, The Road. Strange events that occur to someone may result in uncomfortable feelings as experienced by the main character. In order to survive his anxiety, he performed different defense mechanisms each time, such as regressions, repressions, denial, projection, rationalization, introjection, and displacement. The father is depicted as a responsible father who has many anxieties about surviving and dealing with his son who constantly talks about that. He felt safe because of his defense mechanisms. And the last study conducted by Lulu Guo in 2018 titled Repression, Defense Mechanisms, and the Unreliability of Stephen's Narration in the Remains of the Day, tells about unpleasant things that happen to someone can also cause a delay in their improvement. Because the main character experiences many struggles, he was unable to gain more self-awareness. He became unreliable because he hid and lied to himself when things got difficult in order to build the perfect image. He then overcame his own repressed feelings, became reliable, and gained more self-recognition by remembering his past and employing various defense mechanisms such as selective memory, denial, projection, reaction formation, and rationalization. These are some references I used to write my first draft, and this ends today's presentation. Thank you so much, everyone, and Ma'am Chris for paying attention. Have a good day.